welcome to another episode of Kodsnack. My name is Fredrik, and in this episode I talk to Rikke Koblauch during the Øredev 2017 conference. It's been a while, but the discussion was great and interesting, so I'm really happy to finally be able to release this. Rikke is working with an app or a service called Steps, which is all about helping people to manage and decrease their social anxieties by exposure therapy, basically. Much more on that in the conversation, and I think it was really interesting. It also connects a bit with other discussions we've had about things like avoiding open source burnout and finding and managing your own projects, and perhaps sometimes turning your passion project into a product or a full-time occupation. And as usual, a full list of links, including Rikke's presentation during Øredev and her website and steps and so on, are in the show notes, in your podcast player, or at kodsnack.se. Enjoy! I feel like I want to know so much. I'm not sure I know what to ask for, but maybe you can help me with that.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, there's so many interesting parts.
Yes, where to start.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And that's it's exactly what my presentation today also is going to be about, like how do you get started from like being interested in something and like finding passion in it, or it's just like maybe a side thing you have, and how you can turn it into like a project that eventually maybe can become a company even. This is really interesting. Which is I guess for many people not something you can plan, or really like you just find an interest, or you start researching something, maybe you do some side experiments or whatever, and then it turns into something else, and it leads to something that leads to something that leads to something. That's why I'm here podcasting. Yes, and I think a lot of us, like here at least develop, like in the developer community, we can all like recognize this thing. I think most people have their side projects or their like side hustle that they're just passionate about, if it's computer games or machine learning or whatever, right? And maybe the intention is not really to grow it into something bigger, but it sometimes just naturally does, it like organically turns into something. And that's sort of what happened with this project. I've started that, and I'm working on now. I'm super interested in how we humans, like how we work, why we do the things we do, and I think I've always been interested in that, and especially I started becoming really interested in anxieties and like workplaces, like why do some people speak up, why are some people super quiet in meetings, how can we make sure that they also get their opinion across, or how can we make like more inclusive environments. That's always something I've been super interested in, because we're different, and I think the world is very much designed for extroverts. I read your blog post concerning that. I felt myself like sitting and nodding. Yeah, exactly. I recognize this. Exactly, and it's like not even like half the population is extroverts. So how can we make sure that everyone's opinion or thoughts get through? Because in that way, I think we will get much better ideas. And
so this was something you were thinking about way before starting. Steps.
It's just something I'm passionate and interested in.
Did you do any sort of work with that before?
A bit. I was also so thinking about these things, especially about inclusivity. I also started researching about anxieties and what that means for a human being, and I started noticing some things that I maybe were struggling with, or my friends were struggling with, or started observing these things, and then I started writing blog posts around that. I did some small experiments with like my own anxieties, and people could for some reason people could really relate to that, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Why don't anyone talk about these things?
Yes, because I'm going to link the blog post as well, of course.
Yes,
but it was super interesting for me as well, because I was reading them, and some of them I felt, yes, I know exactly what it feels like, and other ones were like, I see where it's coming from. But I apparently don't have this particular problem.
Exactly.
It's
So
it's
I've always been super anxious about like being alone in public. Or I were at some point. I don't think so much anymore.
Yeah.
And this was like maybe going to the supermarket on my own, or going to a museum, or doing all these things that I wanted to do and I could do with friends, and I'm really I'm a pretty outgoing person, pretty relaxed, I think. But this was like a topic that had been bothering me, because it would hold me back from to go watch that movie or whatever I wanted to do, right? And when I started writing about that, it's so many people were contacting me, and they said like, oh, I totally recognize this. I have a huge problem going to the supermarket. Or maybe they even said the opposite, like, I love being on my own. I love doing things on my own. I hate when there's more people, and that's my problem, because I can't attend like the socials at work or whatever, because I get really bothered if there's too much distraction around me. Or some people emailed me and said, oh, can you write a blog post about talking on the phone, because that's something I hate doing and I avoid it, and I get super anxious every time I hear my phone is buzzing. So that was super interesting, and it opened a lot of new doors or things to explore. And I think that's how it sort of took off.
So did you start with blogging on these subjects before you started Steps as well? Yeah.
Yes. So I thought about, because I am a designer and I surround myself with people who are makers and do things. So of course I thought like, oh, how could you take this problem and create some solutions around it? Of course, that's what we do as makers,
we
right?
want to make it better.
So, but it wasn't like the intention that I'm going to make a company and we can do it like this, or it was more like a passion thing. And then I thought, okay, maybe I'll eventually make something, or something would come up. But it wasn't really the driver, I would say. Maybe.
No. So I guess we should mention what Steps is.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, we build products for mental health, and especially, or in particular, we look right now at social anxiety. And social anxiety is the fear of being judged by others. And I think that's something we can all recognize. Like, you're nervous before going on stage.
Oh, yes.
Maybe if you walk into a conference like this, there's a lot of people you know or you don't know, and you're a bit nervous or thoughtful around that, and that's fine. That's totally normal. Where it can become harming is when you decide not to attend the conference, for instance, or not go to the movies because you feel like, oh, don't go to the supermarket, or whatever situation that might be bothering you. And that's where it can become harmful for you and for the world we live in, right? And that's what social anxiety is. So I think we all have a degree of it, but for some it's harming them so much that they can't even go on a bus, they can't attend meetings, maybe they can't even get a job. So that's where it's really dangerous, and that's where it's a huge problem for the world we live in. And that's what we're trying to solve. So there are really great ways of treating anxiety. The most efficient and best proven one is exposure, which basically means that instead of avoiding these situations and protecting yourself, you get out and go get exposed to it in like gradually small steps. So that meaning if you're afraid of attending meetings, maybe you shouldn't have a presentation at a big meeting the next day. That will maybe just make you more anxious. But how can you break it down into smaller, more feasible steps? And that's what we're working on.
Yeah. So is it the same thing that you're using to treat phobias as well?
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. So you use it to treat the phobias of spiders, of heights.
Yeah. That's a classic example, isn't it? Yes. Spiders for some reason.
Yeah. Whatever it might be. And that's it's super great. It takes a lot of work from the actual, what do you say, user or patient or whatever, but or person with anxieties. But it works, and that's the sort of the mechanism we want to go out and teach people, so they don't have to actively necessarily seek professional help. To seek professional help, you need to be, you would say, you need to be so harmed. So, and also it's super stigmatized to go out and seek professional help, and in most cases it's also really expensive. So how can we give these tools and make them accessible to the ones who need it? So
Steps is more or less an app for like helping yourself through exposure therapy.
Yeah. So in Steps, we present the user to different categories, like friendships or work life or being on your own, or making a bit of a fool out of yourself or making fun of yourself. And we break that down into small challenges that you can then save and then go complete. And that was the product we launched earlier this year, just as a proof of concept, almost like, is it interesting? Is there a need? Do people understand it? Yeah. And luckily, it seems like they do.
Yeah, and it's fun. I don't think I have like anxieties at a really like harming level, but just reading through some of the examples, I go, this one is a bit uncomfortable. Yes. I could use this as well sometimes, just for the push in the right direction.
Exactly.
So it seems to be a really efficient way of going about it.
Yeah.
And you had got lots of good feedback too, I understand.
We launched earlier this year, and we had a great amount of downloads and people emailing us from all over the world, and I think we're definitely on to something.
Yeah.
And now we're working a lot on what is that something? Where do we sit? Who do we target exactly? Why? And how do we help users in the best way to do the right things for them? And how do we help them do it, basically? Because it takes a lot of effort from the user, and it's tough and it's hard and it's uncomfortable. So how do we help them and guide them through?
Yeah.
And we have loads of different ideas on how to do that. That we're right now testing mostly outside of the app.
Yeah.
Using like existing platforms to test these ideas, like Facebook and email and WhatsApp So that's what I'm spending my time on.
Testing ideas.
Yes, exactly.
So how long did this first version take to develop, and how many people were involved?
We were 2 people. I'm a designer, and a guy who were developing the first version in like 2 or 3 months or something. It was like a really super quick and dirty. Let's just get this out and see if it's interesting. And now it's like, now the real work starts, right? And that's sort of like how are we gonna make money on it eventually? Who's gonna pay for it?
So it's free right now?
Yes. Yeah. Mental health is extremely expensive for society. So right now we're spending a lot of time looking also where does it hurt? Like who feels it on their pocket, right?
Yeah.
Because it's super hard to get users to pay for products. So we're looking right now at schools and big organizations and job centers.
And I guess you really want to get the barrier to entry as low as possible too. I mean, if someone has the problem, you don't want to put up a paywall in front of them as well.
Yeah, exactly. And also it is a huge problem for society. So I think it makes sense that the money is already being spent on the problem, just not on solutions, but just problem, right?
Yeah.
So there's definitely possibilities in the space that we're right now exploring. So,
yeah, I mean, you'd almost want it to be like, I don't know, part of the standard healthcare or something.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. As healthcare systems today, most of them, it works like you get treatment when you are super sick. So how can we put more preventive tools in the hands of users? That's something I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
Like, so before they get so anxious that they can't leave the house, or they need medication, or so hopefully there's a space for more preventive tools, and that's.
Yes.
And we can implement those in the healthcare systems. That would be amazing.
Yeah. But I imagine it takes some time and patience to work with the healthcare system as well.
Yeah. It's a bigger one. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have plenty of family who works in healthcare in various ways, and I mean, even they are frustrated sometimes by why is this so slow and too much bureaucracy.
Exactly.
And on the other hand, it has to be, because you can't just go away and do everything at once.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's interesting.
So frustrating, but also huge, like big potential.
Yeah.
So we'll see where it makes sense.
Yeah, and you're also working with the Danish Mental Health Fund.
Yes.
That sounds like a pretty big organization to work with.
Yeah, they're super cool. We sort of been getting their advice and their input for a while, and now we're just we signed a contract with them that they're like our partner. They have so much knowledge within the field.
Yeah.
It's a Danish organization. They work and teach schools, workplaces, private people, families. They do all sorts of work within mental health, mostly within like traditional therapy forms, and so they have a huge knowledge, and they're super excited to get their expertise and their learnings out to even more people that can't access them directly. So they're just excited to see what can digital do. No one has really done it successfully yet, and I'm not saying that we have at all. So it's super exciting to hopefully be part of that and use some of these existing things and try to, what can you say? Try to reinvent them almost in a digital setting.
Yeah. So did you contact them, or did?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people who contact them all the time. So it's been a process of like 6 months just to get in the door and get a meeting. But now we signed a contract, and that's super exciting.
Yeah, because I was thinking that contacting an organization like that and realizing that they have resources and they might want to work with this.
Yes.
It's not something everyone would think of.
No.
I mean, there's probably stuff in the area I work with where we could contact some government organization, whatever.
Yeah.
But it takes thinking about it.
Realizing. It takes time, at least for us. Like we used to writing our code and pushing our pixels, and then we ship something in front of users, and that's great. But it's also like it's very limited in the sense of where there's a huge. There's a lot of people out there who doesn't know about this world, and how can you reach them? And there's so much knowledge out there that we don't know. So how could we get access to that? Like none of us we have read any, like we're not therapists.
No.
So we're just getting all the knowledge we can from books and from the internet and from this fund now that they're now helping us. So I think it's important to get outside perspective and outside knowledge into the world of development and design. Because otherwise we'll just keep making
code.
And for us, right?
It's the Coders app for coding.
Yeah, exactly.
But you mentioned you also got help with, like, what was it? Testing or like formulating tests from the fund?
I mean, yes, we have assumptions on how to increase retention or how to measure if people feel better or worse. so we have assumptions on how we can do that, and then we sort of get them involved, and they come with their knowledge. So they say, no, you can't ask these things because you are definitely not they're gonna give a biased answer. You should ask like this or like that. So it's more like in the product development phase that they're part of it.
So they're pretty involved.
Yeah, we try to involve them as much as possible, but they also have their daily lives and
of course,
other stuff.
So Steps it's your full-time thing?
Yes.
Now and moving forward, I guess too.
Yes.
It sounds like there's lots more interesting stuff to do.
Yeah. It's a big project, I think, and we're just getting started.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's another side of it that I was wondering about. This part of taking sort of a passion or side project and making it your full-time thing.
Yeah.
Do you think it's hard to balance so that you don't burn yourself out on it?
Yeah, maybe. I think most people in this industry are very passionate about what they're doing. If it's something very particular, like writing iOS code or doing animations, or if it's mental health, like I see a lot of passion in this industry. And that's probably for the better and for the worse.
Yeah. It depends on how you deal with it, I guess.
I think so. I think as long as you feel happy and you feel like you're contributing and making a difference either to a team or for your users, then yes, you're maybe going to work a lot, but it's not going to burn you out. I think if you... my idea of burning out is that you're putting a lot of time and hours into maybe something that you don't feel like is making any difference. Yeah. I don't think it's hard to get stressed or burned out by something you feel like you're contributing to. Maybe.
Yeah, I guess. The reason I'm thinking about this is that we've had this conversation a couple of times when it comes to development, and especially when it comes to things like contributing to open source projects, and sometimes people sort of get stuck doing this thing.
Okay.
And a big part there is that in open source there are so many expectations. There might be one person behind the project, and then suddenly it gets popular, and all these people come in and they want things and they expect things and they place demands, but I'm still one person over here doing this in my spare time, and suddenly evenings and nights are sort of filled up, and people get tired and burn out. Yeah. But I guess it's a whole different audience as well.
But I can totally recognize that, I think. But that's again like you're doing something to make the world a bit better, and then people are just demanding more of you. Like it's hard to see that you're making a difference, or when people are just
and I guess it's maybe it's an interesting problem of like handling your own expectations in some way, or being clear about them.
Yes.
I mean, I did talk to someone the other day who was talking about releasing open source code, and he was like, "Yeah, that's no problem. We just mark it as." I don't know what he said. If he said abandoned or archived or whatever, and then so we tell people outright, this won't be updated. Yes. Don't expect anything, but it's here to look at if you want it. Yeah. So, I mean, there are ways of handling it.
People have so high expectations for digital things.
It's yeah.
It's like they think you're like 1,000 people working on it, and it's like
and it's like extra strange when developers do that to each other.
Yeah, they should know.
We should know better, but no.
Yeah. But also me, like I get super frustrated if there's something that's not working, or there's a bug, or I get really upset, like angry, right?
Yeah,
if I can't find a button or something. So I think we just have high demands for software for some reason.
Yeah. I mean, and it's good to expect good things, I guess, but it's bad if you like wear people down by it, or wear yourself down.
Yes.
So it's always worth thinking about.
We had some tough user reviews on the App Store, which has been like, don't you understand? Like, we're just two people.
Yeah.
We can't solve everything.
No.
And we're trying. So
Yeah, working on it.
yeah,
Working on it.
yeah. But that's just how it is when you put things into the world, right? If it's probably the same for the coffee industry or the fashion industry or something like that.
Yeah, probably. It always just feels like the place I am, that's where it's the worst.
Yeah.
Everyone else has it so much better.
Yeah. So easy out there.
Yeah, no.
I'm sure they face exactly the same problems.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've covered the areas I wanted to ask about.
Yes.
It was super interesting.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rikke, for taking the time.
Of course.
And good luck with your presentation.
Thanks.
Which we'll link, because when this comes out, it will be out on video as well.
Uh-oh.
Okay, we won't link it if you don't want to.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Let me put it this way, Mr. Raymer. The 9000 series is the most reliable computer ever made. No 9000 computer has ever made a mistake or distorted information. We are all, by any practical definition of the words, foolproof and incapable of error.